I'm ready. A geography lesson. We have a lot in common with Wisconsin, and the biggest thing that we share with them is Lake Michigan. But it's often what's at the bottom of Lake Michigan that reminds us of that even more. And after 130 years, another lost shipwreck has been discovered.
That's right. And Claudia spoke with the man who was on the team that found the Margaret Muir. The ship sunk off the shore of Wisconsin in a terrible storm in 1893. And luckily, the crew survived.
It's an absolute miracle considering how many crew members have gone down with ships on our Great Lakes.
And that's exactly why researchers search for these ships to finish telling the stories of those who didn't make it. So let's take a look.
The dishes are still there in the kitchen, still sitting in the racks. People leave clues about their lives on these vessels.
What does the bottom of Lake Michigan tell us about our past? What can we learn from what sits below the surface? Maritime historian Brendan Baled says we can learn a lot. That's why he keeps searching for shipwrecks.
The only thing that we really have left, to link us to that important history are these shipwrecks. And so I like to find them and I like to use them as a vehicle for connecting people back up with that lost maritime heritage that we have in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Growing up in the Upper Peninsula near the Keweenaw Peninsula helped shape his fascination with shipwrecks from an early age.
And when I was a young man, we had a couple of old wooden ships just right off our house, sunk in Lake Superior. And I eventually got to wondering what these ships were doing there, and nobody seemed to know anything about them. It's like they'd been completely forgotten to history.
And for the Margaret Muir schooner, it's a history that has been nearly forgotten until now. On May 12th, Brandon and his team of 3 with the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology Association found the ship's remains in a busy part of the Algoma Harbor. It's been 130 years since the ship carrying barrels of salt met its fate.
Before I even went to look for the Margaret Muir, I already had researched, who built it, why'd they build it, who was the owner. So when I actually ran it over with my partners from, the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology Association, Bob Jake and Kevin Cullen, we were just giddy because it wasn't so much like, oh, we found this new thing. To us, and to me in particular, it felt like finding an old friend because I had already written its story. I knew who the captain was. I knew who his living descendants were.
The Margaret Muir is one of the many to sit at the bottom of Lake Michigan waiting to be found since large ships started sailing the lake.
So the first ship that we know of that was lost in Lake Michigan was actually the first decked vessel on the Western Great Lakes. It was an exploration vessel owned by the French explorer La Salle. It vanished in 1679. It's never been found. And since then, we've had around 2,500 to 3,000 ships that have been lost just on Lake Michigan alone.
He says they'll keep searching for shipwrecks to help tell the stories of those who lived and those who didn't.
How incredible. Well, you can find more information about the shipwreck and the incredible work that the historians do at the Wisconsin Underwater Archaeology all on our website. Definitely want to take a look into that.
Absolutely.
But don't go anywhere just